Welcome to another edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast presented by Wicked Energy Gum and Wicked Cushion. Wicked Energy Gum is a convenient, fast-acting alternative to energy drinks 5 times faster. 5 times.
5 times. That's a good thing.
Yeah, 5 times faster without having to fill up on drinks.
That's a better thing.
Yeah, no kidding, especially for somebody who's overweight like me.
And myself.
This is our first visual podcast. It's been
in the works for a little while.
In the works for 2 months,
Yeah.
It seems like. Yeah. We finally got things moving, but it's here. We got a good lineup today. We have Rex Lejeune from Attica Raceway Park, and we have Joe Gaerte, crew chief for Carson, Macedo. They will each be on the phone. So we're going to jump right in with what happened last week. And Lincoln Speedway, Williams Grove Speedway, we get 2 races in. Port Royal bagged it, which I don't blame them. They were going to run Saturday night.
I don't blame them at all.
It was windy. It was cold. Kudos to them for not trying to do something that probably wasn't going to amount to much of a crowd or even good racing. You've been at Port Royal when it's windy and cold, and it's fast.
It's already a little colder up there than it's because it's a little north of Central PA. It's always a little colder up there, so I think they made a good call.
I agree. But Lincoln Speedway gets in. They kick things off 2 o'clock on Saturday.
They had a lot of sun. That had to help.
They had a lot of sun, but it was cold. I thought it was colder in week 1.
I wasn't cold.
That's because you were at home.
I did watch it, though.
Which you were happy to be at home because I know you going to the track every week and having to go is I don't think people understand what you go through as a crew chief, but boy, could you imagine the wind blowing through a car wash on Saturday? You've done that?
Sounds great.
You're happy now. You don't do that. Well, Danny Dietrich was happy as well.
Yeah, he probably didn't mind the wind at the car wash.
No, he gets the win. It's a good start to the season for him. If you count the second place he had at Williams Grove, we're kind of teasing a little bit ahead, but he's been first, second, and third in 3 events this season. He's off to a good start. It's definitely a lot better than Florida.
Yeah, he's filling up the podium here at home, and I think the tracks are pretty conducive to his. The first week at Lincoln, maybe not his style deal, but obviously he got her dialed in pretty close and run third the first week, and the last 2 races he's been really fast, passed a bunch of cars at Williams Grove.
I think one of the things that Danny does that other people maybe don't do, he'll take chances, and not reckless chances, but like searching around the track for a different groove than everyone else. And he did that at the Grove on Sunday. Ran the bottom, maybe 3 or 4 guys ran the bottom in the whole A main. I think you had Dietrich, you had Brock Zerfoss, Freddie Raymer, and that was pretty much it. And now he didn't necessarily have to do that at Lincoln.
No, they're really, honestly, the bottom, to run the whole bottom around Lincoln it wasn't there.
But he did pull off a slider in turn 2 on the last lap to pass Anthony Macri.
Yep. Yeah, it was actually it was a great move because he tried it the lap before and wasn't going to quite make it and kind of pulled up, and I think he probably tried not to show Anthony what was going to happen. And the next lap, he got a real good run down the front straightaway and got her done, cleared him pretty easily. It got a little dicey getting into 3, but he cleared him very easily on the slider.
Yeah, and I think he even said in the post-race, we had the story on SprintCarUnlimited.com, where he wanted to drive it in deeper in turns 1 and 2, and he was getting a huge run off 4.
He was,
and it just set up perfect. He drove past him, and then Anthony was struggling a little bit the last 5 laps. He got startled. He admitted that, and then Ryan Smith ended up second in that event. So, good day for Dietrich. Anthony Macri, not so much, but Anthony still got a 3rd place finish out.
Yeah, still a pretty good run for them guys.
Very windy, very cold. Last lap pass kind of takes that away.
Yeah, I think everybody leaves pretty happy.
Right.
They saw a good feature and kind of don't remember how cold it might have been.
Well, Williams Grove, little chilly, and we're going to talk about this more in segment 3 about Williams Grove's opener. Segment 3 this week isn't going to be about an issue, which we normally are chastising somebody, but not this week. I thought Williams Grove had a very good opener. Lucas Wolf gets his second win in three starts on Central Pennsylvania. That's pretty good so far for Lucas.
Yeah, he won the opener last year, won it again this year. He's been fast. Now he wasn't very good at Lincoln on Saturday.
No.
I think he ran 13th, which is very kind of surprising for the speed he has right now. I was kind of surprised that he couldn't pass really. It was hard to pass because there really wasn't a lane. If you didn't do a flyer, you weren't passing anybody. But look good at Lincoln. I mean, look good at Williams Grove. Stutz looked very good as well. Start on the front row, hung in there for a while, and I'm sure he's just happy to be racing this year.
Yeah, you said about Lucas. He started third, caught a couple breaks in traffic. Anthony Macri again took the lead from TJ Stutz, and then got into the back of a lap car, knocked the front nose wing off. He pulled pits. That whole sequence there, because they ended up completing the lap.
Yes.
And Lucas ended up getting back to second after he was like fourth.
Yeah, he was actually behind Ryan Smith, and I think he got back to ahead of Ryan.
Yep.
When they completed the lap, and then Anthony pulled in the pits because he was actually ahead of Lucas, I think, and he pulled in the pits, and then Lucas ended up restarting second.
And TJ Stutz got held up in some lap traffic, and then Wolf was able to a couple laps from the finish, caught a yellow. Didn't get into traffic again because had to restart. Right. He kind of checked out on the restart.
Yeah, I think when you're in clean air on that situation, it's in your favor.
Yeah, and then Ryan Smith gets second. Or no, Dietrich got second. Yeah, I'm sorry. Dietrich came up. He slipped back to fourth, fifth at one point. Hit the bottom, got past Smith, got past TJ, and ended up in second. I would have liked to have seen another restart.
Oh, it would have got interesting.
Because, again, Danny's very good at finding a lane that no one else does. And sometimes it doesn't work. Yeah. But he's not going to sit.
He won't settle for second if he thinks he has a chance. I mean, he'll cost himself second to run third if he has a chance to win the race.
I agree.
He goes for broke, but it's a controllable go for broke. I mean, he definitely, when he sees it, he'll try to take advantage of it.
Feel-good story of the day was TJ Stutz. We're going to do a story on SprintCarUnlimited.com probably for Thursday on TJ. And just for him to even be in the car at this point, he's 3 months removed from he had pancreatic cancer in the tail of the pancreas, had some cut out, and left Hopkins like 3 months ago. He's been recuperating. For him to get in a sprint car and run third in the A main at Williams Grove on opening day, I think it's a testament. I did talk to him. He's not happy because in true competitive fashion, he wanted to win that race. So he's disappointed, but then again, thankful too, because let's face it, if he does not hurt his back at Port Royal last year, they never find this problem, and who knows?
I mean, it's not often you're like, I broke my back, but it really, it helped his situation out tremendously.
I agree, and how about Ryan Smith? I mean,
solid start.
Yep, 3 top 5s, 2 seconds, and a 4th.
Yep.
He's looking good. I mean, we did a story on him for Monday, and I think, granted, he's not starting like 12th.
Right.
But he isn't starting on the knob either. No. He's not on the pole. So he's passing some cars. He's hanging in there. The team has speed, and probably more than I thought they would out of the gate.
They're really solid right now. It looks like he can race other cars and pass other cars, and he warms up every night fast, which is always helps when you get through warm-ups and you're on the top of the charts. It makes you smile going into the heat races, going, hey, we're pretty good. We did our homework this week, and he's been quick.
Speaking of, we talked a little bit about Anthony Macri. A good week, and from the standpoint of speed, maybe not happy either day because he led and didn't win. However, I look at it a different way. I look at it as you've got to pass people to run up front and lose before you can win, if that makes sense.
I agree. I think you win more you certainly win more than or lose more than you win. So I think it's a learning experience for him. When he won his other 2 races, I don't think there was a whole lot of challenge. So this time to actually both days he passed for the lead. Yeah. I mean, that's saying something there. They have good speed in their car. I think you can almost live with what happened, knowing that hey, we have some pretty good speed right now, and we can come back next week and try to get it done next week.
By the way, he's 19.
Yeah.
And
there's more days around the corner for him.
I do think he's going to win 2-3 races this year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I just do. I think, like you said, they have speed. And, look, he's going to learn from this. Yeah. And I think he has some people behind him. Moon Byers is turning the wrenches there. Yep. And I think they'll kind of get on. I think they're already on the same page. I just think Anthony needs that experience, and I think he'll be fine. World of Outlaws ran last week, and it was interesting. Carson Macedo gets the win at Chico. First and foremost, good win in front of the hometown crowd, and getting a win very early in his rookie season with the series.
Yeah, and he didn't start up front either. He passed some cars to get her there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And an interesting race in that there was a lot. There was passing. I think you had a lot of storylines there. I mean, obviously, there was a point where there was contact between Macedo and Sheldon.
Oh, yeah.
Near the front. Sheldon took a wild ride.
Sheldon took a big one.
Now, I think it was a racing incident. Sheldon hopped the cushion twice in turn 4 to even make that happen.
My thought on that is, look, if you don't hop the cushion in 3 and 4 2 laps in a row, Macedo's not passing you. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, it was more of a racing incident than
right.
Than a big problem, I think, really.
Some people were talking about it in the pit area at obviously Williams Grove because everybody watches Dirt Vision now, apparently. And I was too. Yeah. So it was a wild ride. Justin Sanders, who I think is one of the most underrated drivers in the country because he routinely, I think he probably has the most wins in California in the last 5 years.
I think without a doubt, probably, yeah.
And
he usually has double-digit teens.
Yeah, and he's Joe Von Schultz's car, and they were up to third at one point. Then he made a mistake, got over the cushion, and then he blew a tire. So a lot of coming and going in that race. So it was a good race at Chico.
Yeah, good stuff from the Outlaws.
Next night, they go to Stockton. It was like a goat path.
I'll tell you what. I mean, I've seen some rough races, rough tracks. That might have been for the whole track, both corners. Wow. I mean, it was hard to find a smooth spot to go through.
3 and 4 was a dream compared to 1 and 2. 1 and 2 might have been the worst corners I've ever seen.
Yeah, but if you worked hard enough, you could find some bumps in 3 and 4 too.
Absolutely. Logan Schuchart gets the win. Again, very rough track. Brad Sweet was second for the second night in a row.
And actually, Logan hit one of those bumps, and I mean, I thought he was going to dump it. He was on 2 wheels, got passed for the lead, and then got the lead back later. Yeah,
Shane Stewart actually took the lead, and he was bouncing all over the place. Needless to say, he had a flat.
He had a flat right there, yeah.
I mean, they were commonplace. Guys, when you see Donnie Schatz bounce, you know it's rough.
Yeah. One of the takes I had from that night was the highlights from that B main transfer spot. I don't know if you saw that. That was wild.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, it was hairy. It was wild. It was. I never saw cars kind of bounce off each other so much and still complete a lap.
With Copeland and Brent Marks and
I think Bud Kading was in it.
Yeah,
two of the cars ended up finally breaking down. I mean, it was crazy.
I couldn't believe that corner. I don't think they graded it either afterwards. Like after the B main.
Oh,
if they did, I didn't see it, but it was wild. But
it actually made for some interesting racing.
Hey,
some character.
That's what we're going to say. We're going to go with character. Yep. Well, speaking of that, that's going to wrap up segment 1, SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast presented by Wicked Energy Gum and Wicked Cushion. We'll be back in segment 2 with Rex Lejeune. Stay tuned. Welcome to segment 2, SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast presented by Wicked Energy Gum and Wicked Cushion. Join us on the phone is Rex Lejeune, Director of Operations at Attica Raceway Park. Rex, how you doing?
Oh, pretty good, guys. Thanks for having us on.
No problem. I'm sure you're kind of sick of the weather.
Yeah, just about like everybody else.
It seems to be commonplace almost across the country. From even California is bad with all the rain they're getting. So I don't think you're alone in that, especially with you guys wanting to start this week.
Yeah, but like I say, we're only talking about racing. We're not talking about what's going on out in the Nebraska and the Iowa area. With the people out in that area. So, like I say, we're just dealing with just trying to open up a racetrack. So you put things in perspective a little bit, and it's just not all that bad.
Well, speaking of that, how tough is it kind of dealing with the weather and the way it's been not only last year, but this year?
Well, where we live in our area, as well as Pennsylvania, we pretty much come to expect it, this early in the season, being a Friday night track and with school starting earlier in the fall and high school football and so forth, and a lot of big specials throughout the month of September and October. We just need to schedule races early in the spring or late winter, as you might want to say. But like you say, we just, schedule them. And if we get a decent break on the weather, we're good to go. And, we open, a lot earlier than a lot of other tracks. So, we seem to have a good, fan count and good car counts. And, if we just ever get a break from the, with the weather, we'll be ready to go. But like I say, you just take it a week at a time. And, just whatever the forecast, puts out there for you, you just got to deal with that. And if it doesn't work out, you just move on to the next one.
Now, obviously, in the off season, you want to get a lot of stuff done, whether it be clay or improvements at the racetrack. That's had to kind of probably been a little difficult this year and last year as well with what goes on in the off season lately.
Not really for us, because like you say, we close Labor Day weekend. So that gives us a good couple of months, at least in the fall, to get everything ready to go, for this time of year. And like you say, with the weather, being so cold and everything in the early spring as it is, we get everything done in the fall. So, all of our painting, our improvements, hauling in any new clay if we need to, anything like that, putting up in new buildings or what have you, bleacher boards or what have you. We do that until, we stay outside and do everything like that in the fall until we just can't, stay out there anymore, when it starts getting cold. So, come this time of year, just, putting everything back together, cleaning up the grounds, turn the lights on, getting the track ready. Pork Chop, our great maintenance man, he's been rolling the parking lots and the pit areas, the last 2 or 3 days here, trying to get as much, water out as possible, just trying to firm everything up. So, if we did get a break in the weather, we're ready to go as far as that goes. So, like I say, we do everything in the fall. That way, if we do get a break in the weather, all we got to do is turn the lights on, turn the water back on, and we're ready to go.
God, I wish Pennsylvania did that and stopped earlier. Oh, that's a godsend.
Yeah, speaking of which, Rex, this is Ryan. Hey, do you guys have like a written or unwritten rule as to when to cancel for your weekly shows or even your big shows pertaining to maybe precipitation percentage or temperatures, going through the evening, something like that?
Well, this time of year, it's a little bit easier because, when they put that forecast out there, if it's going to be, like it has been the last 3 or 4 days, they haven't moved off in the last couple of days. They haven't moved off 40 degrees or 43 degrees as a high for Saturday for the last 3 or 4 days. So you're mainly just dealing with cold weather. And if that's not going to change, obviously we know what the verdict's going to be. But as you get into the season, you just never know with rain, so if it looks like, a good chance of rain on Friday, we just kind of monitor it. And for our weekly events, we try to let all the race teams know, as soon as we can, maybe 11 o'clock noon area, or even for our specials, we just try to make the right decision as early as possible to keep the race teams from traveling and the fans from traveling. We do everything we can to get the show in. If it looks like it's just going to be a minimal chance of rain, we're going to do everything we can to race. But, sometimes, you get hit with a big rainstorm on a Thursday night, and then there's a good, all day they're calling for it that evening, and it's going to hit. And, we're pretty good on our record. I would say that, with predictions that if it's going to rain, it usually does. We just try to be honest with the race fans and the race teams and just let them know, what we're seeing and what we're thinking about doing. And, like I say, and, I would say majority of the time we make the right call.
That sounds like pretty good rules there. I like that. Canceling early when you know you don't have a chance. That's very nice for the racers coming from a former crew chief that you kind of lose a day when you're kind of waiting for a decision. So.
Well, there's a few times you might miss it, but I think they appreciate over the long haul that you do save them the travel and so forth and the expense that you might miss it once in a while that the forecast changes and the sun does come out and you might miss it, but overall you just have to take that and move on. But like you say, we try to do the best we can and just look at all the forecasts and everything, and if there's any chance, we're going to try to get the show in if we can.
That's a good idea. On a different note, we'll get away from the weather a little bit. I've been to Attica a few times, and I'll be honest with you, it's some of the best racing I've ever seen throughout the night. Heat race. Sometimes heat races end up being follow the leader, what have you, but your heat races are usually pretty darn good, and then the features are even better. What do you feel is the reason your track's so racy? Is it configuration, size, banking, conditions of the dirt? What do you feel is so good about it? What makes it so good?
I think the size has a lot to do with it. That it's it's a fast third mile racetrack. Some good banking, but the size is we think a good size, perfect size for especially weekly sprint car racing. That it's not all a big engine track. That it does come down to setup, and I say Pork Chop and the crew does a great job preparing the track. And I'm shocked if there isn't 3 grooves, come feature time, definitely 2 grooves, but most of the time it's 3 groove racing. And I say, you can't ask for more than that. And I say, I think just the size of the racetrack and let alone just the talent that we have in our area that put on great, weekly racing along, when the special events come to town.
Speaking of that talent, I mean, I think Ohio's a pretty underrated area. I mean, obviously being in central PA, maybe when Ohio guys come in here, they struggle, but yet when our guys go out there, they struggle. Kind of what do you attribute that to? I mean, obviously, maybe, not the biggest names, but you guys have some tough guys. Byron Reed, Stuart Brubaker, guys like that who really are tough weekly.
Well, I think we just, kind of just talked about a little bit ago, Central Pennsylvania is great, and most of their tracks are the bigger half miles, and, Ohio weekly racing is more of the quarter mile, third mile racetrack. So just 2 different styles, and the race drivers are just used to their own areas. And like you say, when the Ohio cars go out to Pennsylvania, they struggle, and vice versa. But like I say, we just attribute that it's like anything else. The more familiar you are with what you race on, more you're going to have a better chance. And I think that's kind of what it comes down to.
I'm out there for the Brad Doty Classic, and it's one of the best events of the year from a racing standpoint. I've not seen a bad race at Attica. And I'm almost amazed every year. When David Gravel 2 years ago went from 4th and 5th to the lead in 5 laps, and of course last year was just as good. Is that an event that you guys kind of hang your hat on? I mean, obviously your weekly stuff is really good, but when that race takes place, is that really kind of a chance for you guys to showcase this to the rest of the country? How big has that event gotten for you guys?
Yeah, definitely. It's great to have the Brad Doty Classic back. I think this is our 4th season having it back, and like I said, that's our signature event. It brings in the best guys in the world, and to put them guys along with all the great all-star drivers, along with our weekly drivers. It's one of the few times in the country that you have such great competition, like the Knoxville Nationals and Kings Royal and versus the National Open and so forth, that puts all, a lot of the great talent together on one racetrack. And like I say, we're pretty proud of that event, and it's great working with Brad. And like you say, Attica started in 1988, and for the first 20 years, and it even holds true today, that whoever leads on the 35th lap usually does not win on lap 40. So, like you say, when it comes down to the last 5 laps, you just never know what's going to happen. And like you say, David Gravel did it a few years ago, and we see it happen, time in and time out.
Yeah, it's also a tough place to win it. It's not easy. I mean, you have guys that, a couple years ago, you had a bunch of guys not make the field, some high-end guys that took DNQs that night. Is it also a tough place for guys to get a handle? Kind of like Williams Grove. Guys don't just come in and do well at the Grove unless it's Gio Scelzi. But obviously, is it tough to get going at Attica?
Well, it is, but when you put 54, 56 race cars in one event, there's obviously going to be some, great race cars that don't make the show. And like you say, there's only 24 spots to go around. And when you have that many, competing for those 24 spots, there's going to be some great race car drivers and race teams that aren't going to make it. And like you say, for drivers to come in and win, it sure is difficult, as evident. Last year's Ohio Sprint Speed Week, I think, was Paul McMahon's first ever Attica win. So, like I say, Paul's been around for a long time, won a lot of races at a lot of different places, and I say he's raced at Attica, quite a bit over the years. But picking up his first win, I know he was pretty happy about that last year during Ohio Sprint Speed Week.
With obviously, you've had some changes in Ohio this year as well. I guess the person who ran Boss is now in charge of Fast, and things are kind of changing out there. What's happening with the Fast Series? It seems like it's getting bigger and better this year, and I'm actually looking forward to it because it looks like, guys like Joey Saldana are going to run it in Jamie Miller's car, which that's a pretty good get for the area.
Well, yeah, we did not have any fast races scheduled this year. It kind of moved on to Southern Ohio with the new, Aaron Fry taking it over, and we, got together with our local race teams in both the 410s and the 305s, and our local 410 teams. We feel that we put a pretty good product together with our two racetracks on Friday and Saturdays, and they basically can't do a lot of traveling. So we decided to put our own program together called the Attica Fremont Championship Series for the 410s and the 305s, and got a hold of Dwayne Hancock, a longtime fan, writer throughout the Midwest Ohio, and he's going to kind of oversee that series and doing a great job, getting partners and sponsorships. And we just announced the schedule. There's 18 races for the 410s at the two racetracks of Attica and Fremont, and it's a $29,000 additional point fund, paying $10,000 to win that point fund, along with the Attica point fund and the Fremont point fund for the 410s. So, like I say, we put that together here over the winter, and like I say, just to give back to our local teams, and a lot of great partners came on board. We have Kissler Racing Products and All Pro Cylinder Heads as the title sponsor for the 410s, along with the Ball Model Group as presenting sponsor, and KS Sales and Services are series sponsor for the 305 sprints, presented by Dietz's Trailer Sales. So I say a lot of great things happen in our area, and race teams can go 35 miles from one track to another, don't have to do any traveling, and a lot of money up for grabs. Also, there's 8 races, 4 at each track for the 410 sprints, paying $4,000 to win, with some sponsorship involved in that, plus some hard charger awards, some fast times awards. Like I say, talked to Joey Saldana a week or so ago, and unofficially, just see how their season goes. But he's going to try to make a lot of our 4,000 win races, and I say looking for a great summer, with the Attica Fremont Championship Series.
How tough is it to kind of move away from a staple like Fast and start something on your own? I mean, that's a daunting task nowadays. I mean, there's not always enough cars to go around. I know we see it a lot here. I don't think Ohio is as bad as Pennsylvania, albeit I get crucified for saying that. It's not popular to say in Central PA, but you guys seem to have enough cars to maybe support 2 series. But is it tough to kind of go against the grain and start something on your own?
Well, we didn't want to do it, but we basically, didn't have a choice. The Fast Series, only wanted to have a couple races in our area and wanted to go, some in Indiana and Southern Ohio. So, and our drivers just don't want to travel. They just can't. We have drivers that work till 5 o'clock on a Friday night, and they barely make it to Attica sometimes, before the pill draw is over with. And like I say, that we wanted to keep our race teams and our drivers, close to home. And this was another way to do that and have, a great point fund. So, it just came down to the way that things worked out. We'd have liked to, kept the old series going up here, but it was moving in a different direction. So we just had to, make a choice and do what we thought was best for our racetrack.
What is one of the biggest misconceptions about promoting a speedway? It seems to me that it's always how much you guys make, because everybody says tracks are getting rich, even though we know that that's not true. What else do you think is maybe a big misconception about promoting a speedway, running a speedway, whether it be Attica, Williams Grove, or really any track?
Well, like you say, if they would only know, what goes, the hidden cost that the fixed costs that go in each night, just how many, how much you have to bring in just to get to the break even point. And, I guess the weekly tracks, sure stick their neck out each week, promoting especially 410 sprint car racing and, taking the hits when the weather's bad and it's raining all over, but at the racetrack, you can't cancel because it's not raining at the racetrack and fans don't come because it's raining at their house 10 miles away, but, it hasn't rained at the racetrack. And, how can you cancel on something like that? So, the racetracks that run weekly stick their neck out each week. And, like you say, over the long haul, it doesn't work out sometimes. And then, there's some other tracks that have, special events, and they thrive on getting cars from the weekly tracks that stick their neck out, So, I say they should take their hat off to the local tracks, the Wayne counties, the Attica, the Fremonts of the world that do this every week to provide, great, cars and enough cars to have car counts at these special events.
Well, one thing you guys do that I like, I'll be sitting at Williams Grove and you guys are already done. It seems like you put an emphasis on getting shows done in a timely fashion.
Yeah, we're there to sell racing, and if they want to go get something at a concession stand, maybe they might not want to watch a heat race in another division or so forth. We feel that there's still ample time throughout the night to go get something to eat when they can, and I say moving things along, especially on a Friday night, because there's still some people that work on Saturday. Race teams got to get ready to race on Saturday. Attica was founded in 1988 as, running 410 sprint cars. And we believe that our area, fans travel anywhere from an hour and a half, 2 hours to 3-4 hours away. And we just believe that 99% of the time we just need to run our 410 sprint feature first. We get that done at a decent hour. Fans can stay and hang around, grab something to eat. They can watch the other two features if they want to, or if they need to get out there, they're still home at a decent time. And like I say, we just do that, and like I said, we keep the show moving because there's some things you can't control. But if you can, keep the show moving just in case you have a delay you're not expected to have, that you have some time to make up there. But like I say, we just do what we can to keep the show moving.
Well, Rex, we want to thank you for coming on the show. Much appreciated. We look forward to Attica kicking off the season, whenever that is. And I look forward to coming out for the Brad Doty Classic. It's one of my favorite races of the year. So, again, thank you for coming on the show.
Okay, guys. Thanks for having us, and we'll see you sometime this summer.
Okay, thank you. Check out SprintCarUnlimited.com for sprint car news from around the country. One click away every day. The website features breaking news, results, features, rankings, a weekly podcast, and much more from the world of sprint car racing. The off-season, the news doesn't stop there. We also cover breaking news with silly season and also have news from the Australian Summer Series. Yearly subscription is $50, 6 months is $35, 1 month is $8. If you purchase a yearly subscription, you get a free t-shirt. We also have giveaways for our members, the Month of Money contest, and much more. Check out SprintCarUnlimited.com today. Welcome back to segment 3, SprintCarUnlimited.com, podcast presented by Wicked Energy Gum and Wicked Cushion. Ryan, we're gonna have some good thoughts in segment 3 this week. There's good. No controversy in California. We don't have to worry about red flags, fuel stops. Should we race or not race? Although I was questioning Sunday at Williams Grove as I was, walked out of my apartment and drove up with my father. I kind of looked at him and said, it's going to be a little nippy out.
I bet you didn't question it once you got there, did you?
No. You know what? They had a really good crowd.
They absolutely did.
This is what openers are supposed to be.
Yeah. Actually, it was my first outdoor race of the season that I went to. And when I pulled in, I was like, are the Outlaws here or something today? Because it was pretty impressive, the cars that were in the parking lot. I don't think all them people went in the stands just yet.
No.
It was pretty impressive with the cars. I think Williams Grove had a really, really nice crowd. Really nice crowd.
Look, it wasn't jammed.
No.
But it was better than a Friday night crowd on a nice night in May.
Williams Grove's built for outlaw shows with the amount of bleachers they have.
Sure.
And I thought it was – I'm pretty sure they probably didn't complain.
No, I thought it was a home run from the standpoint of crowd And the race was decent.
The race was good.
We don't equate day shows to being great racing.
No, not usually. Usually a guy gets in the lead, kind of gets his own air and drives away, and it didn't happen. But I tell you, I got to give Williams Grove kudos on the track too. They did a great job on the track. They kind of left the top get up there. They didn't try to remanicure it, and they left the entries get a little blown off to where you couldn't just go in there wide open. If they'd have kept the entries really good, it wouldn't have been a race. You would have been only on the top, and it wouldn't have been as good a race. But they did a really good job on the track. It kept 2 grooves for some guys. And I thought it was a good race.
Here's the thing too: people were questioning it early because it was sloppy.
Yeah,
it was slimy.
It was greasy when they started, but I think, look, we're just coming out of winter. It just unfroze.
Well, there is that.
Yeah.
But I think they did a great job. Hey, you can move around. And look, for a race to be good, you got to have some drama.
Yeah.
Got to have some passing, and you got to have the right people up front. And we saw all 3.
You know, there was even in the heat races though, there was passing.
For the transfer spots?
Yeah, there was guys that made it through the heat races from, not the top 4 cars in the heat races. Like Lincoln the first week, kind of top 4 cars made it through, and that was it. This week there was passing. There was guys that started 7th and made the redraw spots, so it was good.
Yeah, I mean the heat winners, they got away. Danny Dietrich,
typical.
Ryan Smith.
But they were all good cars.
Yeah,
too.
they cruised, but
yeah.
I don't think you need a pass for the lead to have a good race.
No.
And it was. I mean, you had guys coming from 7th, 8th, getting transfer spots, and then in the A main, look, Freddie Raymer came from 24th to 6th.
Yep, he saved you, didn't he?
He did save my bacon, which we'll talk about in our 5th and final segment.
Man.
You thought you had it.
Sweating it out all day till the feature. You were sweating it out.
I think I was saying some very unkind words, but that I can't say on this, I guess, PG podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, he came a long way. Brock Zierfoss had to tag the rear after not making staging, albeit
he had a little water line issue or something, they told me.
And, but they questioned it. Yeah. There were some officials back and forth, but nevertheless, he ended up in the top 10 after starting in the basement, and not a ton of guys dropped out.
Not really. No, I don't believe so.
So I was impressed with pretty much everything. I mean, do I wish more concession stands would have been open? Yes. Do I wish the intermission would have been a little different because I thought they missed an opportunity to bring guys on the track to do the draw.
Yeah,
they kind of did it in the pit area.
Yeah. They're without a second division. They probably could have brought them on the front straightaway.
Right.
Did a little bit of interviewing, drew the pills.
It was a Hoosier sponsored event. Maybe have them toss hats into the stands. Do something. I was disappointed by that.
Did you see the flags? There was all new flags.
Yeah, there were all new flags, and they were marked. They marked where the concessions, the restrooms. Yeah. There was
looked good.
Those,
the walls
those
were all
plumes.
painted. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it looked good.
It was.
It did. Kudos to Williams Grove.
Yeah, they did a good job. And again, I go back to, we harp on these openers. And this is why, and I'm going to say it again, Williams Grove should open the season this past weekend. Every year, that's it.
The first track to run, you're saying?
First track to run.
Yeah.
Look, their openers are remembered more than anyone else's openers. I'm sorry, but that's true.
Well, it is Williams Grove as well.
It is Williams Grove, but I hear people talk all the time. Remember when Casey Kane won the opener? Remember when Brian Paulus won the opener on the top? I don't hear that stuff, and it's no disrespect to any other track. I just feel that Williams Grove should open the season in mid-March. That's it.
I'm okay with that.
And then you go to night racing.
My opinion is you just go when you can race at night. That's the opener.
And you have a rule. You were saying it.
Yeah,
we need to do our outtakes because there's something. What was your rule?
I think if it's like 45 degrees, the forecast is 45, less than 45 at the start time of your race, you shouldn't race. I just think it's too cold.
And you got to figure wind into that.
Yeah, you got to figure wind. So 45 doesn't even feel like 45 on these days. So there's always wind. This early in the year, there's always wind. So I feel like there should be some kind of like we asked Rex, some kind of written or unwritten rule. What do you abide by, like, for these early season races? Because they're kind of like bonus races, really. If the weather's great, make them happen. If the weather's not great, No one wants to freeze.
No.
Everybody was making fun of me. They saw me after the races. They're like, "Oh my God, look at all the clothing you brought us." Well, I wasn't gonna freeze.
That's because we went on the observation deck and did like a wrap up.
Yeah.
And you look like the Unabomber.
Yeah, it was.
I didn't know what was going on with you. You looked like you were going to rob a convenience store.
I'm all good. I want to stay warm.
It was questionable. That's for sure. But no, to go back to it, Williams Grove, to me, it's the big banana in Central PA. It should start the season. No disrespect to Port Royal, Lincoln, Baps, or anyone else. And then I think it's the day show, and then you go right into night racing. And when I say night, I mean 4, 5, 6 o'clock start.
Honestly, you almost have to be flexible in this time of the year.
And you have social media to do so.
Absolutely. It can be done. As long as you do it. You can't do it Friday for a Saturday race, but you can do it Thursday. You know what the weather is. I mean, you know what the weather's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, like if they come out tomorrow and move everything up to 2 o'clock, because Friday, now obviously the Grove can't because they go to Friday, and it's going to be windy.
It's going to be wet. Like tomorrow, it's going to be really wet. They're saying like 1 to 2 inches. I don't know. Williams Grove could be fighting a wetness issue as much as a cold issue.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But hey, you can move from 4 to 2 o'clock on Saturday. Mm-hmm. In the age of social media, it's not a problem.
You'll be able to do it.
That's going to wrap up segment 3, SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast presented by Wicked Energy Gum and Wicked Cushion. We will be back in segment 4 with Joe Gaerte, crew chief for Carson Macedo. Stay tuned. Welcome back to segment 4, SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast presented by Wicked Energy Gum and Wicked Cushion. Joining us on the phone is Joe Gaerte, crew chief for Carson Macedo and Kyle Larson Racing. Joe, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. How you guys?
Not as good as you, obviously. Last week, you get a win. I mean, did you expect to come out this quick and get a win in Carson's rookie season?
Actually, I figured we'd be pretty good in California, obviously, because he's ran a lot of racetracks out here. But no, not that soon. But we also worked together quite a bit with the 3G, so we kind of know each other. So, no, I wasn't expecting it, but I'll take it any way we can get them,
That's for sure. Now, you've owned the car. You bumped around with the All-Stars. What's it like being back with the World of Outlaws?
Oh, it's all right. It's just a lot more racing, a lot more traveling, but I'm up for it, before I get too old where I got to have a wheelchair. I figured I better do it.
Come on, Joe. Come on. You're not that old.
You're not that old.
Oh, I don't know. Me and Barry are about the only two out here that's over 50, I think, so.
That's still not that old, I hope.
Yeah, because I'm 47 and closing in. So
Oh, well. I don't know. Once you hit 40, I think you quit counting, don't you?
I did.
Yeah. Well, now this obviously it's a lot of pressure being on the road with the World of Outlaws. It's all performance based. Yet there's got to be some burden kind of off you because you don't need to be responsible for the bills. What's this like for you? Is this kind of a bittersweet or is this just easier for you?
I'd say it's a little of both. I really enjoyed owning my own stuff, but, obviously it was times there where you struggled to make sure you had enough equipment because you didn't have the financing to do it, but now I've got kind of all that together, and it's kind of relieving for sure. You can roll in and pretty much get everything you need within reason. I mean, obviously we don't want to use up any of the car owners. They're the ones that's got to pay the bills, but they also have raced enough. They know what it takes to do it, so.
Joe, you've been racing with Carson for a few years now, and we spoke to him earlier this year on the podcast here, and he pretty much thinks you walk on water. I don't know if you realize that. But,
oh boy!
Yeah, I'm not kidding you. It's a really good situation for you as his crew chief. But what's the chemistry? How did you get to that point in your chemistry with you guys?
We seem to hit it off pretty good right out of the box when we started with my car, and he just puts 100% confidence in what I do, and I give him as good a feedback as I can, because obviously he's still young and he's learning how to give good feedback. But a lot of the younger drivers nowadays, they're not as involved in working on the cars as much, so they don't quite know. And when he was working for me, I had him working on the car during the week, because obviously I had a real job for a while there I had to do, so I couldn't be there every second. So I think if you learn the race car, and gives me a little bit of relief during the week, and then he just gives me 100% control. I can kind of do what I want, based off of what I see on the racetrack. So,
Joe, does it help you as a crew chief being a former driver, and you can kind of relate to a younger driver with Carson, being younger, and kind of tell him, hey, here's maybe where you need to step it up, or here's, maybe you're over driving here, or whatever like that?
I think it does. I think that helps for sure on some of these guys. You take a person like Donnie Schatz or some of the guys that's done it for a long, long time, they know. But, Carson's not raced all that long, really. So I think it helps a lot. I've done everything, worked on the engines, worked on the cars, drove the cars. So I think all that makes a big difference.
Well, that being said, Joe, how about with just dealing with the grind of the World of Outlaws, because you know that as well. You've done it and obviously been around a while since you're over 50, like you said. But do you think that's kind of maybe helped with Carson's transition, even though we're kind of early in it yet?
Yeah, I think so. Just having the older guys around, to kind of get to bounce off of. Sure, I think that helps.
Now, with you being out on the road and stuff, and how important is it for you guys to get off to a good start? I mean, you got a young driver out there, talented driver, but were you concerned about that coming into the year, that, hey, we need to get off to a good start just from a confidence standpoint?
A little bit, but Kyle also understands he's young and he's still learning. So there's not the pressure of Kyle, saying, if you don't do good, you're not going to have a job kind of thing. Kyle understands it's a starting team, basically, and he's good with that. So that kind of pressure wasn't necessarily there. But, yeah, I think it's a big confidence builder for the driver to get a win right away,
Now, you come into KLR, and obviously Carson comes over. Do you make any changes? I mean, they've been around for a little bit now, 3, 4, 5 years. Do you kind of maybe put your stamp on the team a little bit and what you think? Because they went through a lot of crew chiefs last year. So what was your role when you first went in there?
Well, we basically just Paul's the general manager, Paul Silvas. So he basically let us kind of go through and figure out what we're going to do. And Kyle's ultimate goal was to get the 57 and the 2 on the same cars, on the same engines, everything the same. So it can be somewhat like a 2-car team. But yet it's not, because Kyle obviously can only run so many races. But Paul still owns his own stuff. But we tried to merge the two to be kind of using the same parts and pieces on the cars, which was a lot of similar things to what I had on my cars, but then the main one was the frames. We use all Eagle stuff here in KLR, which I had my own cars built. But when it comes down to it, it's pretty similar, to be honest. So it was a pretty easy transition. We moved shops in the middle of the winter, so we kind of, I wouldn't say clean shop, but we went through everything and kind of started fresh. So.
Joe, coming to a new team, obviously with some new team members and stuff that you're not familiar with, what's the biggest obstacle coming into the season that you were maybe looking at and going, man, hopefully we can get through this?
Probably working with Heath, it wasn't a problem by any means, but it was a thing that car never fell out of a race last year. So I did not want to change what he done on his end of it as far as the car chief. They never fell out of a single race. They had a flat tire at Charlotte at the end of the year. That was the only one they didn't finish. So obviously he knew what he was doing. So I didn't want to come in and step on his toes, so to speak, because he had a really good maintenance program. He kept the car finishing every night. So my thing to him is I'll just fit in where I can, until I see how this thing flows.
You know, a lot of crew chiefs wouldn't do that. Because I mean, let's face it, a crew chief usually is the guy making the calls. It's usually his way or no way. That's kind of a different approach than we're used to hearing, I think. So where do you kind of get that willingness to adjust, so to speak? Where does that come from?
Maybe from being around our engine shop for so many years and having to deal with different people and different things, and having to delegate different jobs to different people. Maybe, I don't know. I kind of sat back and watched how he built a car, and then I'd go over and say, okay, here's how I would do it, and then we kind of did it both of our ways to come up with one way we use. So it so far has worked good. I just let him do the maintenance side, the car chief stuff, and I step in with the setups and different things like that. So,
well, and maintenance is so huge. I think Ryan here can attest to that when he worked with Greg Hodnett. I mean, Ryan, you guys never fell out of race. I mean, maintenance is huge, especially with the World of Outlaws.
Yeah, it's definitely very huge. Just like last week at Stockton, we roll it in the trailer, and 3 of the 4 shocks are junk. I mean, the front steering arm's loose. I mean, there's numerous things, and we never gotten a single wreck. It's just all the rough racetrack. Everything on these cars aren't built for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Was that the roughest track you've ever seen?
That's got to be right there, I would say, yes.
We watched it on Dirt Vision, and I'm like, that 3 and 4 seemed like a dream compared to 1 and 2. 1 and 2 was like a goat path.
Well, the thing that was bad is we're standing on the trailer there coming off of 4 in the push-off lane, and I'm thinking, well, it's pretty rough down there. And then he drove down there on the four-wheeler when he pushed him out for the B main or something, and it's like, you don't know how bad it is till you drive down there, he said, because you're a quarter of a mile away looking at it, and you're like, well, it don't look that bad.
Now, you've been with Carson for a while now. You've seen the maturation process. What's that been like to watch, and what do you think's the biggest thing that Carson's improved on?
I think he's improved a lot as far as making the right decision in a split second, if that makes sense. Like when he first started driving for me, he had a tendency to drive just past the nose wing. Now I think he drives, down into turn 1 if you're exiting turn 4. He didn't look far enough ahead. As a rookie, I think that happens a lot, and I've tried to teach him, there's a lot going on way ahead of you to make sure you're staying out of trouble.
How difficult is it you've had other drivers, and obviously the communication process it's always dicey because I'm sure a driver doesn't like being told how to drive, but what's your approach when you have different drivers, and then obviously when you have Carson?
Well, I kind of, not to be cocky, but I kind of tell them the same thing as you would know. I've drove these things. I know what you're feeling, but that's not what you're doing right. You got to kind of like go to it as I don't know. You don't want to get them all mad and get them all on the defense, but you got to kind of tell them, this is just not the way you need to do it. I've drove. I know you might think it's this, but it's really that kind of thing. So, and Carson's been he's one of the best as far as you can tell him exactly how you want to do it, and he'll do it that way. Then if it's still wrong, then we got to work on something else,
Now, obviously, I think one of the I not talked about problems in sprint car racing, we hear about the lack of cars, and there's a lot of drivers out there who don't have cars. I think it's a lack of good crew chiefs. Do you find that to be a problem? I mean, you're a crew chief. You've owned a car. You've driven it. You've been on every side. You've seen the transitions of sprint car racing. Is that a real problem now that's going to even become a bigger problem? Is there's just not guys to travel and work on these cars?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that it's just the crew chief. I think it's every single position out here in the road. It's tough to find help. Jacob went over to Schatz's deal from this deal last year, and trying to find a third guy to do the tires and stuff was a challenge. We spent most of the winter trying to find somebody. The younger kids, I don't think want to do this as bad,
Is it what is it that kind of discourages them? Is it the pay? Is it the amount of work, the amount of travel? What is it, the big hang up, do you think?
Every one of the things you just mentioned.
That's never good. You can't really straighten them all out.
I mean, you don't work 40 hours. You work who knows how many hours. And then the next day you might work, or the next week you might work 20, but you might have worked 24 in one period. I mean, we crashed in Las Vegas and we went to bed at 4 a.m. because we built a car after the race. It's just, that's not, people look for the 8 to 5 anymore, I think. And then on top of that, the pay is not that great for the hours you put in.
Okay, you've been on every side of the tracks. How much do you enjoy being a crew chief as opposed to an owner and a driver?
Well, my day's come and gone as a driver.
Well,
so.
Hey, you know what? That's not true. Jack Hodenshield's still doing it.
Yeah, that is true. But I probably enjoyed the driving side of it the most. I definitely like the crew chief side of it probably just as much now that I'm older. Owning a car is good too. It's just that financial thing hanging over your head, making sure you can pay all the bills. I don't like that part.
So you have to throw a new right rear on it for every heat race.
Yeah. Like the other night for the B main, the tires are about ripped off of it, and we throw a new one on for the B and a new one on for the A. I'm like, not my money, But in them cases, you just have to. It's You don't have a choice. Everything you put on is just wearing out. So.
How tough is it to run with the World of Outlaws? I think people. I know in Central PA, I think sometimes there's a lack of respect on what. They just think it's big money. That's it. And various other things. I look at it differently, but what is the biggest misconception about running the Outlaws? Is it truly a grind like everybody says?
There's times it is, for sure. Carson made the comment the other night there after Stockton that every single lap you have to run as hard as you possibly can because there's somebody that's going to pass you if you don't. I'm not dishing the All-Stars, but I didn't notice that in the All-Stars as much as out here. These guys run hard every single lap.
Yeah, it's probably not easy running against Donnie Schatz every night.
No, and he's not obviously a fan of these West Coast tracks, but he's still right there every night, So.
Well, we understand you get a free weekend. The Outlaws have bagged the Ocean Speedway Friday night and will not race Placerville. What do you do during a weekend off? I mean, is it a chance to catch your breath, or do you kind of go over everything? What's your approach this weekend with not having a race?
Well, we have done that. Went over the cars and stuff. When we left Vegas, I went home after Vegas and spent a few days at home. These guys went to the NASCAR race. Heath and Trey was talking about possibly going to the rodeo. They got a rodeo here in town, Fresno. We're staying here at Tarleton Shop in Fresno, so we may do that over the weekend. Or I kicked around the idea of maybe going home, but last-minute ticket may be more than I want to spend. I don't know. Ryan said to have Heath pay for it, so I might have to see if he'll finance me a ticket here.
Have him dig into them moldy pockets.
Yeah. Heath can afford it.
Yeah.
You can tell him we told you that. We told you that too. Well, Joe, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Congratulations on your early season success, the win last week. And we look forward to seeing you obviously come to the Midwest and come east.
Yeah, we'll be there. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Welcome back to the fifth and final segment, SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast presented by Wicked Energy Gum and Wicked Cushion. Our producer's waving his arms in the background here because it's been a long day, and last week was really bad. We were supposed to be visual last week. Obviously, it didn't happen. We had some technical difficulties. We still have some work to do, but I think it's a lot better this week as far as what we're doing. So, obviously, one of the highlights of the show is our picks.
Yep.
We have three contests going here. I'm winning 3 steak dinners. He just doesn't know it yet. It's on most wins, most top 5s, and then also the positions.
Yeah.
Plus
Head-to-head
minus.
positions, yeah.
Head-to-head positions with who we take. I'm losing my lead. I was plus 56.
You're probably feeling the fire coming.
It's now plus 8.
Yeah. I expect more of that to happen here shortly.
Well, you know what happened? Tim Kading, you would still be at 50-some if Tim Kading didn't have bad luck in 2 races.
Yeah, and then we had to pick the USAC races in Florida. I know. Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Well, we each get a win last week.
Yeah. It's been a while since I got a win, too.
Yeah,
so.
I had Dietrich at Lincoln. You had Lucas at the Grove. Freddie Raymer, thank you. Bailed me out. Came from 24th
did bail him out, Freddie.
24th to 6th.
You wouldn't have heard some of the things he was saying during the heat race.
No. Now I have I have a 2 in top 5s. I have 10 top 5s. You have 8.
But I got 8 in a row.
Top 10s.
Top 10s, 8 in a row.
Yeah, 8. Well, we're tied at 15 apiece in top 10s. So we're doing pretty well.
Still really early, though.
Still really early. A lot can happen. And I'll stretch my legs kind of in June. That's when I usually take over.
Right.
But obviously, one of the, as we said when Joe Gaerte was on the phone, Ocean Speedway and Placerville this week, banged out, wet grounds, rain. It's been a terrible, terrible winter out in California with just rain.
The Outlaws seem like they should move this California swing to another time because it seems like it's so difficult for them to get a couple races in.
Right.
And honestly, I feel bad for the guys. I talked to a couple of guys out there in the
road.
They
just sit there.
Yeah, they don't have a clue what to do. I mean, it's like you can only drink so much.
Well, not only that, California's not a cheap. When I was out there 2 years ago, I had $4 meatballs. Boy. I went with Joey Batts. Everybody, there's a lot of people know Joey Batts.
Stop crying about meatballs because I'm getting 3 steaks. So,
well, no, that's not happening. I thought $4 meatballs were for the 4 meatballs.
Yeah,
they were $4 a piece. Do you think Joey would tell me?
No. He just kept eating.
I found out when I got the bill. $4 a piece. So,
California.
So I can only imagine what it's like for these teams being out there.
Oh.
And what they're doing. So, yeah, they get to do some fun and games and all that, maybe take a weekend off. But still, it's expensive.
Yeah, I know.
The rooms and everything.
We did Ohio Speed Week one year when I was at Zemco, and I think we had 2 rainouts in a row. And it was like probably the 3rd time in my life that I ever went to a movie theater. And I'm like,
I love movies. I go all the time. It's great.
That's kind of what we did, though. We went to a movie theater to watch something new. I'm like, wow, this is not what I had envisioned.
No. Well, we have no World of Outlaw races this weekend, so we won't be picking that. But we have local racing. So we have Williams Grove on Friday night. And
boatload of late models from what I'm understanding.
Oh, I think we could have 40.
Yeah, I heard bigger numbers than that. But
well, we also have dicey weather.
Yes.
It keeps creeping down a little bit. We're down
Is it below the 45?
No, not yet, but we have 20, 30-mile-an-hour winds.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to be sending a video guy.
What about the rain coming tomorrow?
Well, there's
2 inches of that.
There's that too. I'm sending a video guy because I will be at NCAA Nationals. This is a commitment that I made beforehand. The Wrestling Nationals in Pittsburgh.
Penn State.
We can fight.
You want to bet me on that one?
No.
You're not going to take your Iowa?
No, Hawkeyes? I'll take Spencer Lee though. So Williams Grove Friday night. Bunch of storylines. Look, I think at some point TJ Stutz gets a win.
Yeah.
At Williams Grove. It's been like 13 years, I think, in and around that 12, 13-year mark. Mm-hmm. It's been a long time.
They've been close to him and Jake have had some really good runs, and I know they're itching to get a win together, and I thought maybe they're going to get one Sunday.
I did as well. And so it'll be interesting. Does Ryan Smith, break through and get that win? Does Lucas get up front and get a win? And Freddie Raymer turned it over week 1 at Lincoln, and then the last 2 weeks passed a lot of cars.
Bunch of cars, yeah.
He came from 11th to, I believe, 5th on Saturday, something like that. And then he came, obviously, 24th to 6th. If Brock Zierfoss shows up, if Attica Raceway doesn't run, we talked to Rex Lejeune, he's going to kind of monitor the weather out there. What happens? Does Brock stay around? And Brock's passed a lot of cars.
Yes, he has.
He hasn't drawn for crap.
No. Heat races or features.
No. He might be the worst at drawing in the country so far this year.
He's right up there.
I mean, there's no doubt about that. So, Williams Grove Friday night. I guess I pick first.
You're up.
I don't like picking first, but
It's okay.
I will. And that's a tough call because it's all draw.
It's all draw.
It's all draw. I can't really get a beat on it.
It's honestly, it's like throwing darts.
Well, we're due for one of those Steve Buckwalter wins.
Oh yeah.
Steve Buckwalter had motor trouble week 1 though. That is no surprise.
No, it's a shame.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, when their motors stay together, they have a fast race car.
Yeah, they're fast.
But it's like, man, it's like one problem on top of another.
Absolutely. I'm going to go with Brian Monteith.
Damn, that's who I was going to take.
I'm going with
He's due. You killed me.
He's due. And I think he gets it at the Grove if they run.
And I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be very, very narrow. The late miles are there. They always have the entries very low, the exits very low. And I think with all this rain, whoever's starting in the front is going to have a huge advantage. Man, I'm going to have to go with the pill draw master. I'll go with Lucas.
Going with Lucas again.
2 in a row, yeah. And I think it'll be, if it's heavy, he'll be fast too. So, and I expect it to be heavy. Well, you took the guy I was going to take.
Lucas. Mm-hmm. He's a popular pick. He's almost as popular as Shots. I think we've taken him in every.
It's a draw. It's draw.
That's true. He is. He's good. Although Danny Dietrich drew
been drawing good.
3 poles.
Yeah.
It was the heat race feature at Lincoln, and then the heat race last week at Williams Grove. So, Port Royal goes 4 p.m. on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, Port Royal would be first. Yeah.
Yep. So again, weather comes into play. It's going to be in the 40s. Could have some leftover wind, 18 miles an hour. Gusts up to 20. So it'll be interesting to see. Now it's who goes to Lincoln, who goes to Port Royal.
Yeah.
And
that's fishy for our deal too. Woo.
You know what? You pick first, Port Royal. I know who I'm going with.
At Port.
I know who I'm going with.
I am going to go with Port Royal 4 o'clock day show.
Sort of a day show.
I picked Logan Wagner last week.
Okay.
To win Port, and I'm gonna go with him again.
I'm going with Brock Zerfoss.
Okay.
He's if Attica doesn't run, he doesn't go out there. Port Royal opener, he's good there. They've had speed. I'm going Brock Zerfoss.
Good pick.
I know it's a good pick.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be rolling up some. That's getting over double digits as far as plus minus. That's what's happening. Lincoln Speedway is going to get they're going for their 3rd show of the year, 6 p.m. start.
Now, is this a draw?
I'm not sure.
I kind of think they only go 2 races. I'm not sure. It has a little bit to do with my pick, though. I should have did a little more research.
Yeah, you should. I think they might go to more of a handicap, but I'm not sure. See, every track does that differently.
Yeah.
2, 3 shows. I don't know. It's tough.
Your pick.
Oh, that's right. It is my pick. I was hoping you.
If you take my guy again, I'm not gonna be happy.
Well, it's who goes to Lincoln instead of Port,
mm-hmm.
and that's what's hard. And is a track with all the rain coming Thursday? There's a lot of factors that go into this.
Oh, absolutely. The weather, even if they race, is a factor, I think.
I agree. And there's a couple guys back there who haven't started well.
Mm-hmm.
Alan Crimes.
Yep.
Guys like that.
I don't think Siegel's had some stellar runs.
No. Chad Trout had
Chad Trout's been fast there, too.
Yeah. I'm going with Freddie Raymer. He helped me.
You did it to me again.
He helped me out on Sunday, so I'm going to go with him at Lincoln.
I don't believe it. You're 2 for 2.
Hopefully I get 2 for 2 and wins.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to take Monteith.
I was going to go there, but I'm figuring he hasn't drawn for crap if it's a draw show, and I don't know if he gets to the front when it's cool out. Maybe.
Oh. He'll get to the front.
Well, if it's not wide.
If there's he'll make it wider than most people will.
That's probably true. Next week we kick up with a lot more racing, so we'll have a lot more to
You'll have a lot more chances to really lose.
No. This guy. Not happening. But nevertheless, that's going to wrap up this edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast. Stay tuned to SprintCarUnlimited.com all week for your racing needs. I will not be at the races this weekend. However, they will be covered by a correspondent who will be writing for the website. I will, however, be posting things from wrestling. So I'm still working.
Yep.
I need to be.
It's about time.
It's It's about time. Thank you to Wicked Energy Gum, Wicked Cushion for being the presenting sponsor for the season. Check out their products. It's really good. They actually have a new one, Wicked Relief. I'm telling you, it's really good. It actually helps out if you're sore from anything. I use it because my shoulder's terrible.
Oh, it's not from the manual labor you have to do every day.
Okay, let's not get snarky.
I actually really need it.
Yeah, you're hurting from playing a 10-year-old in basketball.
That's a good point.
Your daughter's beating you up.
I'll take that pack.
Again, that's going to wrap up the show. We'll be back next week, one day earlier. Stay tuned. We'll talk to you next week.